Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we're about to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about one of the most basic human functions. When most of us think about walking, we usually just think about burning a couple of extra calories or maybe taking a leisurely stroll to get from point A to point B. But what if I told you that simply putting one foot in front of the other is actually a highly potent medical-grade intervention? Seriously. The science we're digging into today reveals that walking is basically the stealth bomber of fitness. It's quietly, yet incredibly powerfully, transforming your biology in ways that those exhausting high-intensity workouts honestly just can't match.
So let me ask you something kind of wild. Can simply moving your legs physically reverse dementia and stop Alzheimer's right in its tracks? I know, it sounds like a total exaggeration, right? But a study out of the University of Kansas uncovered a pretty terrifying truth. Our modern sit-at-a-desk all-day behavior is actively accelerating the onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. We're looking at over 35 million people suffering right now, and that number is projected to literally double in the next 20 years. We have a massive crisis of stillness. To really grasp the cure, we first have to recognize that sitting for hours on end acts like rust on your body. But today, we're going to explore the amazing, medically proven physiological shifts that happen the second you break that stillness.
All right, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll cover the sedentary life crisis. Second, rewiring the brain and mind. Third, supercharging your internal organs. Fourth, building your structural armor. And finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate FIT formula.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the sedentary life crisis. We really are dealing with a crisis of stillness.
Moving right along to Section 2, rewiring the brain and mind. Think of this as your ultimate brain reboot.
Now here's where it gets really fascinating. We need to talk about a biological mechanism that the fitness industry almost completely ignores, and that's your hippocampal volume. So your hippocampus is your brain's command center for memory and learning. When you walk, you aren't just casually burning off lunch. You're actively triggering the release of neurotrophic factors. You are literally forcing nutrient-rich blood straight up into the brain. And that stimulates the growth of brand new neural blood vessels and cells. Walkers effectively reverse the clock on brain shrinkage. You are physically building a bigger, far more resilient brain with every single step. Just let that sink in for a second.
Check this out. The Journal of Psychiatric Research looked at 50 individuals who were suffering from major depression, and they found this incredible chemical reaction. They discovered that walking for just 30 minutes a day actively destroyed their symptoms. Why does that happen? Well, when you're sitting around, you're just letting that stress hormone cortisol build up in your system. But walking acts as a chemical flush. It burns right through that cortisol and floods your entire system with endorphins and BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Iowa State University even found that walking improved mood in students without them even actively trying to feel better. It is a hard biological reset for your emotional state.
And there's this fantastic quote that just hits the nail on the head regarding the shift. You cannot remain in a state of depressive stagnation while your body is in forward motion. It's so true. When you mechanically move your body forward, your brain chemistry has absolutely no choice but to follow suit. Those two biological states are just entirely incompatible.
All right, let's head into Section 3, supercharging your internal organs. Time to look under the hood at your internal engine.
This next bit totally subverts what most of us assume about high-intensity exercise. There was this fascinating 6-month trial at Duke University that pitted runners against walkers. And the result? The walkers won. Walkers demonstrated a staggering 6 times greater improvement in glucose tolerance compared to the runners. When you sprint, your body burns sugar furiously. Actually, it's more like it burns it in a total panic. But when you walk, you're training your body to process sugar efficiently and smoothly over time. That means your pancreas doesn't have to produce as much insulin, giving that vital organ some much-needed rest. For anyone who is pre-diabetic, running might just burn you out, but walking could quite literally save your life.
Plus, walking creates what we can basically call a cardiac shield and a lung filter. The American Heart Association has completely debunked the myth that your heart isn't getting a workout if you aren't running. A daily half-hour walk acts as a natural beta blocker. It widens your arteries, it lowers bad cholesterol, it forces oxygen-rich blood through your system, essentially scrubbing your arteries clean without causing that massive cortisol spike you get from extreme cardio. And at the exact same time, walking acts as an aerobic catalyst for your lungs. It forces deep, rhythmic breathing. It expels waste gases and those toxins that accumulate down in the lower lungs. You're flushing out your whole respiratory system and building up a serious immune barrier.
And hey, we absolutely cannot forget about the digestive engine. The crucial thing to remember here is that your gut is a muscle. If you don't move, it doesn't move. Walking mechanically stimulates peristalsis. That's the wave-like muscle contraction that moves food right through your digestive tract. Essentially, you are kickstarting your body's internal plumbing. Just 30 minutes of walking a day regulates your bowel movements by physically aiding your body in waste removal.
The impact of this mechanical aid is absolutely massive. Just look at this number, 150,000. A study involving over 150,000 people revealed this stark, undeniable correlation. Sedentary people have a much higher risk of dying from colon cancer, whereas the active people survive. Even if someone is diagnosed, walking actually increases their statistical chance of survival simply because they are keeping that internal waste removal engine running smoothly.
Okay, on to Section 4, building your structural armor. We're talking bones, spine, and even your eyes.
I know this sounds like pure sci-fi, but the Glaucoma Research Foundation backs it up. Quote, "You are literally walking away from blindness." So glaucoma is caused by a buildup of intraocular fluid. It's kind of like a dam that's about to burst and crush your optic nerve. Now, while high-intensity exercise can sometimes cause harmful pressure spikes in the eye, moving your legs at a walking pace acts as a secondary pump. It regulates blood flow and systematically lowers the pressure inside your eye. Walking literally stabilizes your vision. So how exactly does walking fortify your bones? Well, your bones are living tissue, and if you don't use them, they start to dissolve, which leads to osteoporosis. But when you walk, that low-impact strike of your foot creates something called piezoelectricity. It's this tiny electrical charge created right inside the bone during impact. And that little spark signals your osteoblasts to start building brand new bone tissue. You are literally electrically signaling your skeleton to become armor. Running can stress and fracture bone over time, but the gentle, low-impact rhythm of walking constantly builds it up.
It also happens to be the ultimate cure for our modern plague of back pain. Your spinal discs are really unique because they don't actually have their own blood supply. They're essentially like little sponges that only receive nutrients when they are physically squeezed and released. Sitting all day, that just starves them. Walking, on the other hand, provides a mechanical pumping action that circulates vital nutrients right into the soft tissue of your spine. It strengthens the erector spinae muscles that hold you upright. You aren't just walking, you are practically oiling the rusty hinges of your spine.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate FIT formula. This is your daily blueprint.
Now, if you ignore these variables, you're essentially leaving all these amazing biological benefits on the table. Step 1 is frequency. This one is non-negotiable. You are reprogramming your cells, and they absolutely require a daily signal. So the goal is every single day. If you're just starting out, aim for 3 to 5 times a week, but work on building that frequency up. Step 2 is intensity, and we'll dial into that in a second, but you want to be moving between 2 to 3 miles per hour. And finally, Step 3 is time. 30 minutes is that magic threshold where these physiological shifts, the neurotrophic factors, the insulin sensitivity, the joint lubrication, where all of that actually kicks into high gear.
To dial in your intensity without needing a fancy smartwatch or heart rate monitor, just use the talk test zone. If you can comfortably belt out a Taylor Swift song while you're walking, you're going way too slow for real cardiovascular change. On the flip side, if you're gasping for air, you're walking too fast and you're just spiking your cortisol again. The correct intensity sweet spot is right there in the middle. You have enough breath to hold a conversation, but you're working hard enough that you really don't want to.
And listen, when it comes to the actual number of steps, don't fall into the trap of thinking you need to hit 10,000 steps immediately. Set your baseline goal at 6,000 steps. That's the number you want to conquer first to start unlocking those cellular changes. Seriously, don't obsess over the 10,000 step myth right out of the gate. Start with what you can actually conquer. Build up the habit and then expand from there.
Okay, a few quick pro tips to really maximize your time out there. First up, hydrate. Drink some water before you head out so your biological engine doesn't seize up. Second, mind your form. Keep your spine nice and straight, bend your elbows at 90 degrees, and stabilize that pelvis to prevent any joint inflammation. Third, swing those arms. Engaging your upper body actually increases your calorie burn by up to 10%. And finally, the habit rule. Try to walk at the exact same time every morning. Doing that doesn't just build consistency, it actively resets your circadian rhythm so you get better sleep and more energy throughout your entire day.
So, there you have it. You now have the diagnosis for the sedentary crisis. You understand the incredible medical cure that walking provides, and you have the exact FIT formula to make it happen. This is a highly effective intervention that is entirely within your control, it's completely free, and you don't need a gym membership for it. So the final question I'm going to leave you with today is this. Will you choose to just sit back and let the rust take over your brain and your bones? Or will you stand up, lace up your shoes, and take back your biology one step at a time starting today? Seriously, do not wait for tomorrow. Get moving and take control of your health. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.